today?
Good, pretty good.
All right, so I hope everyone is having a good day. My name is Chelsea, and I guess we can just start by introducing everyone by our first names, and then I'll just go over a few housekeeping things that we have here today. So how about we start on this side and go this way?
My name's David. I am Veronica's husband, and I am the girl's stepfather. We've been married for about 2 years.
Okay, all right.
My name is Veronica. I'm Lucy and Claire's mother.
Okay, nice to meet you, Veronica.
I'm Claire. I'm the youngest daughter.
Okay, nice to meet you.
I'm Lucy. I'm 14.
Nice to meet you, Lucy. So I want to thank you guys all for coming here today to see me. Obviously, that's the first great step, is coming together as a family. So I just want to go over confidentiality. Does everyone here understand what confidentiality means? Yeah? So what confidentiality means is just that whatever stays in this room, what we talk about in this room, is going to stay in this room. We're not going to go and break that after we leave here or talk about it with any other family members or any other friends. We're going to keep it between us. So the only thing is that if there's any time that I feel like a child or something threatened, I'm going to have to report that. If I have, if I'm subpoenaed by the court, I'm going to have to give that information to the court as well. And if there is any inclination of self-harm or self-hurting, I'm going to have to report that as well. But other than that, we're all going to remain under the cone of silence, and we're going to have a trusting relationship. So what I wanted to start with first was I just wanted to go around and just see why everyone thinks that we're here today. What's the main reason that you think that we're here today, or what would you like to work on?
Well, I think that my stepdad's kind of mean to me. Like, he always says no, doesn't let me do anything, and like, I'm 14, he has some fun.
I don't really know. I feel like Mom and David just like always fight about everything. It's just like loud and annoying sometimes, and I don't know. Sometimes I just sit in my room and it stresses me out when they fight all the time like that.
And is there a main reason why they fight, do you think?
I don't know. It's like maybe because like Lucy doesn't really get along with David, and that causes lots of fights and between like mom and David too, because they're like fighting over how to like deal with Lucy, and I don't know. It's just they fight about a lot of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. How about you, Veronica?
Well, myself and David, we've just been fighting a lot lately. We never seem to agree on anything, and especially how to parent the girls. So I think that's a big source of tension in our house right now.
Okay. And you, David? How do you feel about this?
I guess I feel like I just feel really disrespected by my wife. Like, she always sides with the girls or something, so I find it really difficult to like parent because no one ever agrees with me.
Right. So, it seems to me that it sounds like everyone has a bit of a different understanding of why we're here today. Does that sound fair?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So, what I would like to start with is doing a genogram. Have you guys ever heard of a genogram before? No. Have you heard of a family tree before?
Mhm.
Yeah? So what a genogram is a more in-depth version of a family tree. But it's going to kind of help us map things out and see maybe if there's some patterns going on in our family that we can kind of work through. Maybe if there's something that we tried before in your family that worked, maybe with your parents or with your parents. And we're going to try to work our way through to see what everyone's main issue is here and how we're going to get through that.
Mm-hmm.
So, first of all,
Yeah, my parents are still married. And I have 2 younger sisters.
okay, it's 2 younger sisters. So you said your parents are still married, right? So how does their relationship look? Growing up, was there much fighting? Did you guys get along?
I mean, they fought, but I guess I always thought it was like a healthy fighting.
Right,
Help
so like
me work through it.
respectful disagreements, hey?
Yeah.
Working through stuff like
Yeah.
that, right? Okay, well that's a good thing. So, I just want to drop down to the sibling placement. So you said that you have 2 younger siblings and they're both sisters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How is your relationship between those, you and your sisters?
I'm close with my youngest sister,
Okay.
but not so close with my middle sister.
Okay. All right.
It's kind of always been that way.
And it's always been that way even until now? Okay.
Yeah.
And how is your relationship with your parents now?
My relationship with my mom's really good. Not quite as close with my father.
So Veronica, we'll move on to you now. Get a bit of a background information on that.
Okay, so my parents are divorced.
Okay. And when did that happen?
I was 13 and my
Do you have any step-parents in that relationship? Had anything like that came out?
both of my parents remarried.
Okay. And when did that happen?
My mom remarried when I was 15, and my dad remarried when I was 18.
How did you feel about both of those?
I think my mom remarrying was a harder adjustment where I was a little bit younger.
Okay.
So whereas my dad was when I was 18, so I didn't have such a difficult adjustment.
Right. And who did you live with at that time?
With my mom.
Okay. And how was your relationship with your mom after she remarried? Did that change or?
No, I would say we still had a good relationship afterwards.
And what about with your father? How was that relationship with you guys there?
We were a little distant at first, but in the past couple of years we have reconnected, and I would say we're pretty close.
Okay. So what I want to switch back to is your relationship with your step-parents. How's your relationship with your step-parents?
I had a difficult time adjusting to my stepfather. I think just because I was 15, it was really difficult for me. I was still in high school and I had a lot going on, so I didn't really accept him at first.
Okay.
However, I do like him now,
Yeah.
and I love my dad's wife.
Oh, that's great. So you guys have a very good relationship then,
We have a very good relationship.
All right. So that's perfect. Okay. So moving on, I'll get you to drop down. Did you have a marriage with the girl's father?
Yes, we were married for about 10 years.
Okay. So what I want to do, I just want to switch over and let the girls answer for themselves for that part.
Right.
So you and your mom, how's your relationship?
We have a
What
pretty
would you
good
say?
relationship. I think
Okay.
so. She lets me do a lot of things.
Okay. So
So-
I want to go back to your relationship with you and your mom. So how does that look now? How is yours and your mom's relationship now?
It's still really good.
Okay. And how old were you when your mom and your dad got a divorce?
8.
8. So when all this happened and that transpired, how was your relationship with your mom then?
I don't know. I remember she cried a lot, but
Okay.
she was still there for me, so I think it stayed good.
Okay. And what about your dad?
I see him on the weekends, and I guess that's all I ever remember seeing him was really just weekends.
Has your relationship changed from when they divorced to now? Does that look any different or does it still kind of look the same?
It's still the same. I just don't see him as often.
Right. Okay. So now with your genogram, you and your sister. How about you and your sister? How do you feel about that relationship?
We get along. She's annoying sometimes, but we get along.
That's kind of normal, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So what about you and your stepdad?
We don't really get along. I find he's a little bossy towards me.
Okay.
Like everything I ask is no, you can't do this or you can't do that or go to your room.
Okay. So sometimes you guys don't see eye to eye,
Yeah.
right? All right. So that's something we can revisit later. All right. How about you, Miss? How is your relationship with your mom?
Oh, well, really good. I love my mom.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So you guys get along really well and you guys have very good open communication?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
talk like every day.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. So same thing with you and your sister. How old were you when your parents divorced?
I think I was like 6 or something.
6 or something?
Yeah.
Do you remember much about that?
Not really. I remember like leaving my room and stuff. And Mom was a little bit sad, and I remember the move, but that was about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about your relationship with your dad? Did that change? Your sister said that didn't change too much for her. How was that experience for you?
I feel like where I've seen him every day, that kind of changed, and now I don't get to see him all the time. It's only on the weekends, so like that kind of is not the best. But I feel like that's the only thing that really changed.
Okay.
Yeah, just not seeing him every day, and I miss him a little bit sometimes, things like that.
Yeah. So you guys feel a little bit disconnected. Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So what about you and your sister? You
Oh.
said you're a little bit annoying sometimes.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I am. I try to scare her and stuff sometimes, so I can be annoying, I guess. But like, I don't know. I feel like we get along really good. Like, she always like hangs out with me and my friends.
Right.
Sisters.
So now what about you and your stepdad?
Well, I feel like we're okay. Like, he's alright. Like, we're not, like, as close as me and my actual dad or me and my mom, but we're okay. Like, he talks to me and everything. It's just, I don't feel like I am as close to him as my real dad. And I feel
All right. So, I can see that we have a few leading themes going on here. Does anybody else see that? So the major themes that I'm seeing going on here and the major events that I'm seeing that might have a big impact on your family is the divorce. Is that fair to say? And trying to restructure the family. So what I'm seeing is a bit of a pattern on David's side and how that filtered through the family tree and how that might impact some of your feelings and how you might be trying to fit in. And same thing with Veronica. Veronica, do you feel like maybe your past or like your parents' divorce may have a bit of a repercussion on how you're trying to restructure this family?
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
And what does that make you feel?
Well, it's a little unsettling to see that that can transpire into my relationship with my own children.
Right. Do you see any similarities that may have went on? Like, are you closer with your mom and kind of distant with your stepdad? And I feel like that might be transpiring over to.
Absolutely, I was definitely closer with my mom directly after the divorce than I was with my dad, so I can definitely see where the girls are coming from in that aspect.
Okay. All right. So what I'm seeing also is that the girls are feeling a little bit confused and conflicted about your parenting styles, and then maybe a little bit of favoritism going on, maybe a bit of more authoritative and passiveness going on when you guys are trying to balance each other out. Do you guys want to speak to that? How do you feel about that? Do you think that that's an issue?
Well, I feel like Veronica doesn't ever tell the girls no. Like, they're 12 and 14 and someone has to tell them no. Like, they're saying that they get along with their mother better because she lets them do fun things and go out. But, I mean, they need a parent. They're, like I said, 12 and 14 years old. Someone has to step up and help them make good decisions.
Right.
David, they're not bad kids, and I feel like you're a little too hard on them sometimes.
How do you feel about that, David? What I want you to do now is just take a step back. I can see you getting a little bit upset. So I just want you to talk to Veronica, but use an I statement. So when you do this, or when you guys get into a disagreement about something, I want you to use an example that happens in your everyday life when parenting the kids. So when you do blank, that makes me feel blank. So maybe that way we can get a bit of the emotions out on what it is exactly that's bothering you and me.
Well, something that happens all the time is like when one of the girls wants to go out with their friends after supper on a school night, and I say no, and then they go and ask their mom, and then she'll say yes, and then I feel like I have no authority because I look bad to the kids then because I said one thing and then their mom said the total opposite.
Okay, so I just want to reframe that for you. So when you try to be a parent to the girls in a step-parent role, you feel undermined and disrespected when Veronica goes against you. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, Veronica, how do you feel about that? I want you to use the same type of I statement that David used.
Well, I feel like when you're very harsh on the girls, I feel like I need to be the opposite.
Why would you feel that way, Robin? Pull it deep from your belly. Why do you feel like you need to be like that?
Well, I feel like when you're a little harsh on the girls that I need to be the opposite because they've been through a lot with the divorce between myself and my first husband, and I don't want them to experience that again.
Okay. And what do you mean by experience that again? Are you referring to a divorce between yourself and David?
Yes.
And is that like an issue between you guys? Is that something you've talked about?
No, we haven't discussed it.
Okay. And fitting the children's father back into the equation, is there any relationship between David and the biological father? Is there any enmeshment in there? Is there a way that we can try to offset some of this tension, maybe by bringing in another family member, or do you think that would, how do you think that would play out?
I think that would get a little complicated because I don't want the girls to think that we're trying to replace their father
Right.
with David. Obviously, we're a different family than we were, but we want everyone to feel included and not like we're pushing the girl's father out of the picture.
Right. So when these fights or disagreements happen, how does it usually start? How does that usually play out? Like you set a rule for the girls, you disagree, now then what? Can you guys play that out for me? How that would look in your household?
Well, then that usually starts a disagreement between the two of us.
Okay. And how does that look? Verbal? How does that transpire in your household? Who's involved? Are the kids usually home? Are they?
Well, it usually starts with one of the girls asking us for something, and if we don't agree or see eye to eye on how to proceed, then there's a little bit of conflict there.
Right. Okay. So girls, what do you think about that? Claire, when that happens and that transpires in a fight, what does that look like for you?
Like when a fight happens.
Yeah.
Well, when a fight happens, like mom just said that we asked her to do something, and then like sometimes when David's in the kitchen and my friend's coming out of the door, and I ask David if I can go out, and David's like, no, you can't go out because it's almost supper, and then mom will come down to the kitchen, and then I'll ask her, and she'll be like, okay, yeah, that's fine, just be back in like 15 minutes. And then David will like yell at mom and say like, I just told her that like she couldn't go out because it's close to supper and you just told her she could. And like mom will say like, no, that's okay, David, like she can go out. And David usually like storms off, and mom like goes to like talk to him, and they end up like sometimes yelling about it.
Okay. And when that happens and when the yelling transpires and things get a little bit escalated, how does that make you feel?
Well, like sad, because I don't like want anybody to fight. And I know sometimes it makes my mom really sad when they fight, because like when her and my dad split up, she was really sad, and I know maybe that may make her think of that maybe when she fights with David, and I don't want her to feel sad about that.
Okay. So you don't like it when your mom's upset, right?
No.
Alright. So when they're fighting, where are you usually too in the equation?
Well, sometimes like they'll like go into another room, like when David will storm off and get mad, they'll go into another room. But sometimes they just like argue in the kitchen, like right in front of me, like that. It'll just happen. They'll just scream at each other right in front of me, and I'll just like kind of like listen. Yeah.
So you don't interject. They don't bring you into the argument or anything like that.
No. Sometimes mom will ask Lucy like if she agrees with her. Like sometimes mom will be like, Lucy, like do you agree with what I'm saying? Like is David being like, is David wrong? Like don't you agree that I'm being right here? And Lucy will always agree with mom because we usually think mom's right, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. And usually because you're getting your own way that way, right? Is that usually why?
Yeah, I usually agree because I feel like if I say, Mom, yeah, no, I actually think David might be right, then Mom's going to get mad at me. And I feel like I'm going to get the blame for the argument. Because it usually starts when I ask for something and David says no. I'll ask Mom, Mom will say yes, then they'll argue. If I just listened, maybe they wouldn't have fought.
Okay, so do you feel like there's maybe a little bit of internalization there with that?
Maybe.
And you feel like you start the arguments? So when there's an argument, where are you in the process of that, Lucy?
It's usually like she said, we're always in the kitchen, but Mom will come talk to me after, but I think like I'm there as well. Like if they leave the room, like we can still hear it. And I just really feel like maybe if I listened to David more and like let him in a bit, they wouldn't fight and I wouldn't have to worry about any of this.
Okay, all right. So I'm almost hearing a little bit of a coalition going on here. Did you guys notice that? I feel like there might be two or three. So there's full family as a whole, and then there's little teams in it. And what I'm seeing is that there's a team between you two and Veronica, Lucy, Veronica, and Claire. And I feel like you might be somewhere on the outside. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I guess it seems about right.
Okay. So I'm seeing like the kind of a triangulation between you and the girls. Is that fair to say?
I think that might be fair to say.
And you might be bringing them in sometimes on the arguments and stuff like that.
I've never thought of it like that before, but now that you say it, I can see it.
And that might be pushing a wedge between your relationship with David and your relationship with David.
Mhm.
Yeah. Not that all the blame is on you. This is a full family unit, and we need all members to be functioning in order to work that out, right? But I feel like that might be something we can look at further in later sessions. That might we can try to detangle that a little bit and work through some of that. How do you think of that? Is that like the overall issue that are we collectively agreeing on?
I think.
Yeah. So you think the main conflict is between trying to fit the new stepdad into the equation?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we had to, right now in your family as a whole, as you and David and Lucy and Veronica and Claire, what's one thing that you don't want to change about therapy? What's one thing that right now is working for you guys? That when these arguments or these disagreements come up, what's one thing or one way that you guys worked it out that worked before in the past? Does anyone want to share something? Or what you think might work?
I don't really know. I guess, like I said, I could try to listen better and realize like Dave is not trying to be me and mom is just, she's my mom. I guess she has to say yes, but David's not trying to take over my dad's parents. And I don't really know.
My friends' parents have group meetings where, like family member meetings, and they come together when they have like something to argue about. And instead, like they talk about the issue sometimes first.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good starting point.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Veronica? Has there ever been an instant where you and David might have been fighting on a disagreement with the girls, that you had a better rule and that maybe you guys came to a compromise, or you talked it out, or something worked?
Well, Lucy tried to go to a school dance a couple of weeks ago, and I was okay with letting her go, but David didn't want her to go. So we talked it out, and we did come to the compromise after that she could go if one of us were to drive her and pick her up, and she had to be home by a certain time.
Okay.
So that worked well, I found.
Okay, so when you guys came to this compromise, did you guys talk it out beforehand, or you wait from the girls, or was it in front of the girls, or how did that transpire?
That was a private conversation between us.
Okay, so that worked, eh? That time. All right. David, how did you feel about that compromise? Is there any other time that you could think of that might have?
Well, no, I mean, she's right, because we talked about it, I guess, before we spoke to the girls about it, instead of having one of them come ask me and then ask her, and then go talk to their mom again after about what I did wrong, and so that way we were like agreed beforehand.
Right, okay. So I'm hearing there are some exceptions and that everything isn't totally bad 100% of the time, right? And I still feel that people are still a little bit uncomfortable. That's normal in the first session. And that, it's going to take a little bit of time for us to open up and work through some of these problems. So what I'm thinking is that I'm going to send you home this week and get everybody to think of one way that they would like to see, or one thing that they would like to see change in the family dynamic, and how that would look for you. And I want you to think of one way that you would think that working through these parenting problems. So I want you guys to think of a way that you can maybe approach mom or stepdad, or just mom, and talk things out and just come up with one way or one solution that you think would work or that you would like to try in the family. So I'm also thinking that maybe we can start with some individual counseling between Veronica and David, and then maybe have you guys come in on a separate session together, and then we'll remesh together in a further session so I can get maybe a clearer picture of how every little puzzle piece is going to fit together. How does everyone feel about that? And then we'll cipher through some of that. How does that feel?
Sounds good.
Yeah?
Mhm.
All right, guys. Well, I'm really glad to meet you today. I'm looking forward to working with you guys through all this and hopefully make some positive change with you guys.